Representative Kinner.
Here.
Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Schwartz.
Here.
Representative Simpson.
Here.
Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters.
Here.
And Chairman to be named later.
Yep, President Nicholas will be here later. So what we're going to start with, if we could, is we're going to, Evan or Representative Simpson, will have you start with House Bill 107. And then we're going to do a re-referral and jump back and forth. So
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Members, this bill is about the state revolving loan funds. The three state agencies that are visiting us this evening recognize that with the infrastructure bill coming down and additional monies for these programs, that we have a limitation on the way we manage that. It could apply for them and utilize them. So, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to invite our three agencies to come up and help us walk through the bill.
I invited them once. I don't know why they're not there. So could we, Director Parford, Director Scoggins, do you want Beth to join you, please? And Director Gephardt, come on. Director, why don't you come over here by Evan? Would you? And same Beth, if you want to come and join us. We've got plenty. That way we all have speakers. We all have speakers, okay?
That means you guys could vote now too.
Yeah. Representative Simpson.
Chairman, I'd like to turn the floor over to Beth to lead us into the bill and tell us what
Which one?
the intricacies.
Okay, Ms. Blackwell, please.
Would like me to walk through the bill?
Would you please?
Yes, sir, I most certainly can. Page 2, line
Beth?
11.
Would you mind to start with just give us this summary of what it is you're trying to do with the bill and then walk us through it?
Absolutely. With the amendments to this bill, we are trying to find additional sources of match funds for both the clean water and drinking water programs. We've worked with EPA over the last several years to try to find an additional source. We recently found a way that we can use program funds, specifically interest earned on investments and interest paid back on loans, to facilitate a short-term loan to create that match fund. Most states use those funds to go out to the bond market. We're unable to do that in bond finance. However, we can take a short-term loan from a state agency and get the same effect.
Give us an example before you tell us how you do that in the bill.
Our examples have been, we would take a loan from the corrective action account. Currently, they are our 20% match within the clean water program, but as it stands today, we do not reimburse that match. They give us the match and we go ahead and loan it out. However, with the amendments to this statute, we would then reimburse the corrective action account for the match funds that they gave us that we would use to match the federal funds. And we felt like we needed to have two sources to do that with. So the secondary source was the mineral royalty grant program, because that program allows loans. And we felt like it was an appropriate place for us to identify another source.
And if I may, while we're there, I'm just trying to make sure we can see this picture before we go into it. Director Parford, could you explain to us just a little bit on the corrective action account and what you've historically used that from and the sources of it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we've historically used the corrective action account for initially was for the storage tank, underground storage tank program, and the remediation work that we've done under that program since the early 1990s. The other uses of corrective action account funds is for landfill remediation. If some of you may remember, we have an obligation of about, just say, $280 million for cleanup efforts associated from historic landfill contamination.
And the origin of the corrective action account funding is that FMRs? There's a little swap that goes on there, but remind me how we get that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the way we get the corrective action account funds is that it's equivalent to 1 cent per gallon fuel tax, but it's paid out because there's a constitutional issue there. That's paid out with mineral royalty grant funds, I believe.
Okay. With MRG stuff as well?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
that right?
And then one last thing, and the other thing that is funded with the corrective action account is orphan sites, because we had no other funding mechanism. So to the extent monies are available under the corrective action account, after everything else has been funded, we can divert up to $1 million a year for orphan sites.
And define this orphan site for us. Are you referring back to underground storage or?
No, Mr. Chairman, the orphan sites would be a contaminated site anywhere in the state that is otherwise there's no responsible party for. And the state has the responsibility for reclaiming that particular site.
Perfect. Thank you. Beth, please explain the bill.
Mr. Chairman, the other item that this bill does is allows both programs to utilize what are called set-asides within the SRF programs. These are tools, I would call, in our toolbox that allow us to take part of the capitalization grant for administration. We do that currently. Currently, the drinking water has a 4% or 2% small system technical assistance for assisting systems serving less than 10,000 people. There is a 10% set aside, which are state program managements, which we can help fund the capacity development and operator certification that DEQ's office operates. And then the last one is local assistance and other state programs. This one we have some, it's a little more open and broad. Some of the ideas staff have had with this is giving grants to complete capital improvement plans through this set aside. As the statutes stand currently, we don't have access to the other set asides other than the 2% and 4%. And within clean water, their 2% set aside is new. It was an amendment to the Clean Water Act through the infrastructure bill. And then finally, the other thing that this, the revisions of this or the amendments to this bill do are allow for some of the other funding options that the infrastructure bill provided for the programs to provide. Historically, subsidization was provided in the form of principal forgiveness or negative interest rates. We are now able to take a portion of that and give grants with it. So the program staff has thought about taking $1 million of every grant that has taking $1 million of the principal forgiveness and working with conservation districts to help them complete some of their projects. In the past, we've struggled to be able to work with them through the SRF program due to their taxing limits. They just don't have the ability to take out a loan and pay it back. So this was a way that we are thinking about trying to utilize these funds in a different way.
Any questions?
Mr.
Representative Stith,
Mr.
please.
Mr. Vice Chairman. So back on page 4, we were talking about using a percentage of a capitalization grant for a set aside. So can you give an example of how that would apply? And let's imagine you're a city and say a county and you've got your water line from your water source to your water treatment plant, but it's really expensive to fix that. How would this change your ability to finance it, or would it not have any effect at all?
The use of set-asides wouldn't necessarily affect entities' ability to finance. The set-asides would allow an entity, say, any small community, to do a capital improvement plan within their community to determine what is the condition of their system, what is in ground, and help them prioritize which projects need to be done first and last.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yes, these proposed amendments, I think, will give the program great flexibility. And with the anticipated amounts of money coming through the program due to the infrastructure bill, we wanted to be poised and ready to have other ideas with respect to getting the state match. We realized that this could be a new and different opportunity, and sometimes those things are a little bit scary. But with Director Parfit's folks and their hard thinking, and Ms. Blackwell and her thinking and trying to think outside of the box, we wanted to bring this forward. We have run this this idea, if you will, through EPA. EPA is supportive of it. I guess Colorado and California do similar types of short-term financing, if you will, for these state matches. And, since they have weighed in on it, we feel pretty confident that it's allowable with respect to the program and could provide some great flexibility to the state of Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only other thing I would add is that because of the addition of the infrastructure bill funds, if we don't think about this creative way of providing the match, we're going to miss out on the opportunity to utilize those infrastructure funds, because we won't be able to come up with a match, particularly in the drinking water side. But even on the clean water side, we'd still run into some difficulties in meeting the match. This provides that opportunity to meet the match, and also leverages those funds in a way that will give us more, as Director Scoggin mentioned, give us more flexibility on the other programs, landfill remediation, orphan sites, and the storage tank program. So I think this provides a great benefit to the state.
I apologize. My question to you earlier, and to Beth as well, was the corrective action account has been used for the remediation that you talked about. Then we had diverted some, as you pointed out, to for landfill remediation. And this actually helps that, because we're able to pay that back, because we've been, and so you can use the full amount. What happens when the infrastructure money's gone and this is in place? Well, then will you still have the capacity or the ability through this language to use that for any type of clean water or drinking water fund appropriation and then pay it back?
So, Mr. Chairman, once the infrastructure bill runs its course through 2026, then we would go back to the normal operations of the program. And instead of having a need of roughly 4 million a year to match on the clean water side, and 5 to 6 million to match on the drinking water side, we would go back to the normal funding, which would be about a need of 2 million to match on the clean water side, and I believe about 5 to 6 million on the drinking water side.
And I get that. I'm just looking at the structure of the bill, and this may be back to you, Beth, because it requires that repayment now, and it's not, I don't see a time on here. So can you?
Mr. Chairman, through some great work by my staff, they were determined that this is a sustainable way to run these programs for at least the next 15 to 20 years. Currently, within the drinking water program, there's over $75 million available to do this. And within the drinking or clean water program, there's almost 38 million. So we're healthy in the sense that we can afford these loans through the program and pay them back.
Perfect. Okay, other public comment, Director Gephardt?
Mr. Chairman, I think the only thing that I would add in relation to the water development accounts is this could provide a way to save some state money in water development accounts by providing that match money or a portion of the match money. So that would leave more money in water development account for additional projects as well.
Director Mead, do you have any, you want to pipe in on this one? Perfect. Beth?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Beth Calloway with Governor Gordon's office. Comments are real brief here, in which I want to express my support for this bill on behalf of our office. As was stated earlier, this is the result of a lot of hard work and a lot of bright minds coming together to identify where there are opportunities outside of the box thinking, to allow the state to better make use of the SRF programs. And from the governor's office perspective, it's in alignment with allowing funds to be more supportive of local communities. And so this, the idea of allowing more flexibility and better utilization of the SRF programs will do that. And for that matter, it's a really great representation of thinking ahead and trying to come up with a solution for where we view a lot of communities will possibly benefit. So,
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
I have a question.
Representative Wallace?
Thank you. This might be for Director Parfit or whoever. On page 4 in line 18, and really 17 and 18, it defines the corrective action account as defined in 3511 1415A2. And then if you go on to page 7, line 6, it says 3511 1424, there is created the corrective action account. So is there a different corrective action account in 3511 1415A2? Or what is that account that's different from the one listed on page 7? I don't have my green books in front of me to look this up.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have that in front of me either. But with the corrective action account is, as I explained previously, it's primarily for use in the storage tank program and then use under certain circumstances for landfill remediation and orphan sites. Now, there wouldn't be another corrective action account. The corrective action account is the same one that would be utilized for both the clean water SRF and the drinking water SRF.
With that said, we'll close public comment except for any addition that we might add to the information that we figure out here. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, move the bill.
It was moved by Kenner,
Second.
seconded by Stith or Schwartz. We don't care. We don't care.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
with respect to Representative Walter's question, 3511 1415A Romanet little I cross references to 3511 1424.
Just discovered that. What I was trying to understand. Didn't have to go through that.
So we're good? Okay, very good. So if we may, let's walk through the bill. Anything on page 1 that needs attention? Or page 2? Page 3? Or 4? 5? 6, 7, or 8? Or 9? Okay. Really? Okay, Clark?
Just, Mr. Chairman, are there any unintended consequences of this that we don't understand?
Well, fortunately, this is an old representative, this was fun. This was a fun discussion for me and Representative Walters. We lived through the days of being on minerals when we, in some of this work, and that's why it was it's kind of like riding one of your old favorite horses again. It was fun. So but what I really like is the stability that it now gives back to the corrective action account to help fund that ongoing orphan sites and the remediation of landfill where that had not been able to be reimbursed before. It's a great move. So Representative Simpson.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we've had several legal minds working this, and the benefit of our best agencies right here. This has gone through a lot of iterations to come up with the plan. So if I can give you any level of comfort, there has been a lot of effort gone into it, thinking it through, and we think we've got a good concept here.
Mary Lee, roll call.
Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson,
Aye.
Representative Stith,
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye. And then we wanted to do the re-referral on 73. Is that right, Evan?
If you would, please.
Okay.
Folks, I have 24.
Okay. We got a re-referral. So this is our omnibus water bill planning. Evan, we've got a fiscal impact here. Do you want to help us with that?
Mr.
Thanks,
Chair, I'd like-
Director Parfit. Thank you.
I'd like my water specialist to
Director
chime in
Gephardt.
here. We
please.
thought we'd start on page 1, and you're directing us to the last page of the document. But you have the binders in front of you. I think you're too weary to go project by project, and so we're going to spare you with that. These are all, well, we spread them out from water account number 1, water account number 2. You recall water account number 1 is new development. Water account number 2 is rehabilitation. Water account 3 is associated with dams and reservoirs. And so you can glance down through the blue spreadsheet and see what you think. There, the totals are at the bottom. So, Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be better if we just let the committee ask us questions and fire into specifics.
Any questions, committee? Representative Walters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just using your blue sheet, if you go to tab F, and I don't need to go to the tab, I'm just using that as a reference. UW Water Research Program, that's something we see in this every year, if I'm not mistaken,
Mr. Chairman,
or something similar.
there's 2 UW line items. One is up on tab F and the other one's down on tab MC. The tab F is we asked the Water Research Program at UW to ask their professors. We give them guidelines on what we would like to be analyzed, and they submit proposals. And there were many proposals covering all kinds of water-related things. Their committee at the University of Wyoming short lists, and they presented 3, actually multiple ones to the Water Development Commission. Commission picked 3 and wanted us to fund 3. The Select Water Committee trimmed that down. We thought that was just too much money, so we chose 2 to be funded under tab F. And then the MC is just simply funding the Water Research Department at UW.
I move to pass.
Motion move do pass. Second. We do roll call on this? What do we do on this?
I believe so.
Do we do a roll call this?
No, we already did roll call.
No, on this bill.
On the vote.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Mary Lee, excuse me.
Who made the motion?
Representative Nicholas, Chairman Nicholas. And Kinner.
Thank you. So Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson,
Aye.
Representative Stith,
Aye.
Representative Walters,
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye.
All ayes.
Mr. Chairman, I have 24 eighth graders waiting at a restaurant for me.
See you later.
And they've traveled a long ways today and they're hungry and may I please be excused now, slip out.
You would prefer their.
Well, they have food and you guys are not providing any food. That's
Wait,
tip
wait,
the
wait,
scale.
wait.
All right, thanks. Next bill up for our consideration is House Bill 146, General Government Reports. That's ours.
Chairman, would you like me to run over that?
Would you quickly just bring us up to speed on what reports you got in there? We'll get her done.
I won't.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't put too much emphasis on this because as you know, this is our bill and we talked about it recently. But we do put a report together because as we all remember, our chief executive doesn't like us to policy in the budget. And so we put this report together. We have a report, section 1 on infrastructure grants coming out of the governor's office. Section 2, the WIP program. We want to kind of monitor that and track that. Section 3, the state treasurer's office. We want to do some monitoring reports there. The section 3 is 90 days after the calendar quarter, a reconciliation. Section 4 is no later than October 1st of every year. The treasurer should report to our committee and to the select committee on capital finance and investments on the advice given by the investment funds committee on two things: steps taken to respond to the recommendations on the operational audit. And number 2, each operational audit's recommendations, and then the implementation status of that. Section 5, also in the state treasurer's office, is during the biennium, we'd like to look at monthly information reports to the state SLIB board and then also to the legislature through us concerning the following. Number 1, monthly fiscal status. Number 2, the monthly fiscal status of investment earnings and interest and dividends. And then number 3, any issues or delays that have been identified and a little bit of information about that. Number 6, you'll recall that we wanted to monitor and ask for the cost location improvements on Wyoming Tourism Quebec number 1 for signage and so on, northbound and southbound. We want to understand what's going to happen there. And then the final 2 are the Department of Corrections relating to mental health and substance abuse, some information there. And then section 8, also the Department of Corrections and from the committee on any use of funds for the purposes of incentives and alternative sanctions for probation and parole. We'd like to follow up on that. So that's just a quick overview, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, comments, Hollis, Dr. Hackman, do you have any comments on this bill?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hollis Hackman with the Wyoming Psychological Association.
Okay, very good. Just thought you might have something here on substance use disorder programming. So, okay.
Move the bill.
Move the bills by Walter, second by Schwartz. Any comments? Any comments? Mary Lee? Question on the bill?
Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson. He left. Oh, he's not here. Let's see. 146. No, he left and I vote. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye.
All ayes.
We have 2 re-referrals.
Just so everyone knows, what will, and and remind me, but when we give this to the majority floor leader, we're going to tell them to hold it and we'll pass it out like the last day possible. So that we're just going to slow the train down on this. And that's kind of our intent. And then we'll follow up with our folks down in the Senate, see if they still want to do it and what's going on. We met with the governor today, Drew and I, regarding the reports and got a favorable discussion on whether or not he's going to line item the reports. And for the most part, I think he said he does not intend to. So we'll play it by ear as we move along.
Agreed. So then we have two more re-referrals. One is on House Bill 110. That's on, we'll do that while Dr. Hackman's here. That's a Larson bill. There's a fiscal note on there that's paid by the agency, meaning this, the Board of Psychiatry. And that's it. Dr. Hackman, do you want to did I get that right? Well, and you've been very kind with me on that, and I apologize. I continue to do that. I apologize. I have to write it down. Anyway.
So you're okay with that? Yes, our climate psychologist is very supportive of this.
We would very much like to see it go forward. Behavior analysts are growing, a growing number in our state. There's about 35 of them right now, and they're not under anybody's regulatory authority. And that creates problems for the Life Resource Center in the state and for state employees that have this board certification. It's a national certification. It creates also problems for private providers who provide these services to primarily kids with autistic spectrum disorder kinds of diagnoses. And insurance companies are not reimbursing their claims because they're not regulated. So this bill will solve a lot of problems. Behavior analysis is part of the psychology scope of practice. And we're doctoral level folks, but these other folks are graduate level folks. They're board certified, and their training is in the tradition of psychology. And so we want to welcome them into our board and give them a couple seats on our board and solve problems for the state and for private providers in the state. And I think that captures most of it, but I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Motion to pass.
Second,
Nicholas Walters,
question on the bill.
question on the bill. Your lead, please. Thanks, fellas.
Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson left an I vote, Representative Stith,
Aye.
Representative Walters,
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson,
Aye.
all ayes.
Okay, our last bill re-referral is House Bill 31, Wyoming Tomorrow Leadership. Chairman Nicholas, any suggestions on what we ought to do in this bill?
Yeah, I would move that we strike the $1,000 on page 9, line 22. Page 22, line 9.
Do I have a second?
Second,
And so there must be one other spot where that $1,000 is comes from.
Could you repeat that again, please?
It's on what he suggested. What he suggested there, Mary Lee, was on page 22, line 9. Remove section 3 in total. And
Yeah, just
renumber.
remove section 3 of the motion. I make that motion because that was at the request of the House chairman of education.
Those in favor, say aye. Is that the only place it happens,
And that's all I can find.
Chairman? Okay. Motion, I'm sensing a motion to pass as amended.
Move to pass as amended.
Second.
Kenner Walters. Roll call or take the roll, please, Mary Lee.
House Bill 31 do pass as amended. Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz. Representative Simpson left an I vote. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye.
All ayes, all done.
Mary Lee, could we just ask you, remind us in the morning what we've got? We've got the ARPA bill, EPCON bill.
The question is, do we want to pass, which ones do we want to pass? That's really the only one we care.
Mary Lee, are we still online?
We don't have to. So we could at least do those two. Well, my mic's. So
Meeting is adjourned